It's time to unleash the expert. What is he an expert on? Relationships, sex, spirituality, and rediscovering yourself beyond the trauma. Get ready to unleash more purpose, passion, and pleasure in your life. Here's the expert himself, Mr. Brannon Patrick.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Brannon Patrick Show. I have a big announcement that I'm really excited about. So I'm starting a couple of groups, and these groups are really special groups. I'll be running these groups, and they are groups about real deep healing. And I'm going to start a men's group, and I'm starting a women's group probably in October. And there's limited space. I imagine they'll sell out, and I'll have a wait list for them. So the sooner you can fill out an application, the better. If you want to fill out an application, you go to thebrannonpatrickshow.com and go to the Healing Journey Experience. Just click on that tab there. And I can also put the links for the application in the show notes of this show. So this group is amazing. It's more than any other group that I've run. It's about intense healing. It takes you through a process of experience and really connects you to the people in your group. So if you're struggling with addictions, depression, just relationships, you want something different in your life, this group will get you results of things that you want different in your life. And I'm excited for it. It's going to push you. It's going to push you hard. And so I want motivated people. I don't want people who are doing it for somebody else or want to just pay for the group and expect me to fix them. I want people who actually really, truly want to do the work, to go through a process of shifting and creating something different in your life. And I will walk you through it, but I can't do the work for you. So if you're interested, go check out the page, get more information. Again, it's thebrannonpatrickshow.com. All right, today's topic. Today's topic is, I think, very, very important, and it's not very talked about. And I think it's one of those things where it's wreaking a lot of havoc and causing a lot of problems, but a lot of people don't realize that it is. And it's kind of this thing that is unconscious, almost on a macro level. And I want to bring it up into the consciousness and actually try to talk about it. So I'm gonna do my best to articulate the issue and to really help you understand it so that you can see it. And it might push some of the beliefs that you have and challenge some things that you believe. And I speak about this from my years of experience treating sex addiction in pretty religious, rigid culture. So it's just really interesting, really fascinating the way this develops. So I believe, in fact, I would go as far to say that I know that in order to recover from a sexual addiction, somebody needs to learn how to be sex positive and they need to learn sexual self-acceptance. And I talk about this all the time, and but I really want to talk about why it's so critical and so important. And in order for us to understand why it's so important, I think we need to understand why it causes so many problems. So I'm going to kind of walk you through what I've seen and what I've just seen and experienced with my clients, so you can understand this issue. So shame and sexuality can kind of really tie themselves together. your sexuality is so vulnerable. It's probably the most vulnerable, if not close to the most vulnerable thing about you. Maybe your spirituality and your emotions, those are pretty vulnerable too, but your sexuality is a pretty, sacred personal thing. So what happens when we're young, we are developing, we're going through development. And as we develop, we start to experience some wounding, and all of us do. Whether it's intense trauma, whether it's minimal trauma, we all experience some level of wounding. Now, during that wounding phase of development, when we start to lose sight of who we really truly are, and we start to form these faulty core beliefs and start to interpret the world a certain way according to the experiences that we're having. During that time, our sexual development is also taking place. So what I see oftentimes is there's trauma. Maybe mom or dad's an alcoholic. Maybe mom or dad have created just a too rigid family system that you're never seen, you're never understood or empathized with. Any kind of wounding, okay? As that wounding's taking place, the sexual development is taking place as well. And as a child starts to try to figure out who they are in this world, they start to experience sexuality. And there's just a natural part of them that really, really likes it. And it's stimulating, it's enticing, it's exciting. It's naughty in a way, and it's new, and there's this thing about me, inside of me, that I definitely can't deny that it's there. It's there. So as the family system is kind of breaking down, there's wounding happening, there's some trauma going on, you find sexuality and you start to think, well, I'm already feeling like I'm not loved as I am. I've experienced some abandonment. I've experienced some rejection. Now I'm starting to experience some of these sexual things, and I feel naughty. I feel disgusting. I feel broken. I feel like I need to hide this sexual stuff from others because they'll get mad at me or they won't love me as I am. This is kind of weird and yucky and strange. And, who has these feelings and these things happening in their body. And I don't want to go open up, just like totally open up, especially in a system that's not very safe for me. And so the sexual development persists anyways. You can't shut it down just because you feel these feelings of weirdness or uncomfortableness around your sexuality. It's still developing. And you hit puberty, you get a little bit older, and sex is a very important part of who you are. You can't take it out of you. It's there. But if you, at a young age, interpret that sexuality as evidence that you're somehow unlovable, broken, disgusting, perverted, wrong, not okay, then your sexuality is just evidence of those things, and it drives that home. So, my generation, there was no internet until I was about 17. Then there was internet. So there was no like real easy access to porn until I was 17. Then all of a sudden it was everywhere. And so my generation, as my friends and myself and my brothers and everybody is developing, all of a sudden, boom, there's just like access to sexuality and explicit stuff available. In the meantime, from the religious standpoint, it was being driven into your head that that's bad, that's bad, that's bad, don't do that, that's not okay. So if I experienced some wounding as a young child, feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough, mom and dad don't really love me, or I'm not that important, or, dad abandoned me when I was 5 and married another woman and left me and whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, I'm experiencing this rush of dopamine from all this sexually explicit content all around me, being told that it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, you're not okay. I already feel like I'm not loved, I'm not okay because of the wounds that I've experienced. And now there's just proof of that. And the reality is if you remove the shame from it and you look at it just from a development standpoint, you can see, gall, as an adolescent, experiencing sexuality in that way, it's fairly normal. But not inside of that adolescent, especially in those type of systems. And it leads to 2 beliefs that I believe really cause problems and wreak havoc on healthy relationships. And one of the beliefs is nobody will love me as I am. So if I really told them everything about me and who I am and what I'm going through and my, how the feelings I'm having about sex, I'm just not going to show anybody that. I'm just not going to do that. Which leads to the next belief, which is I must hide and manipulate in order to be accepted. So, my typical intake is like a mid-30s, couple coming in, and he's just destroyed the relationship. Trust is out the window, and he's hidden things. He's gaslit her. He's manipulated for years and years and years because he's avoiding her seeing that belief that he has about himself, that he's not lovable as he is. So he does everything he can to keep her far enough away from actually seeing who he is. If you understand arousal template, it's really fascinating. We all have our unique sexual desires and fantasies and things that are enticing to us. We all do. And so if arousal template development is happening throughout our life, actually, but really as a child and as an adolescent, mixed with faulty core beliefs about who you are, then you start to mix in what's on my arousal template and who I am are bad. They're bad. And therein lies the seeds of the attachment disorders. On top of all of that, when you feel unloved, when you feel like you have to hide and you're feeling shame and you're feeling bad about yourself, guess what gives you a great break from that? Acting out sexually. For a split second, for a moment, all of that goes away and you just feel release, you feel good, you feel some ecstasy. And it's just a break from all of those terrible feelings that you're having about yourself and living in the dark the way that you are. And so you're driven to go, we call it act out. You're driven to go act out in order to avoid those feelings of shame. But after you do the acting out, along comes the shame again that says, oh my goodness, look what you just did. And the cycle goes on and on and on and on. So, if you're raised in a culture where they don't teach about healthy sexuality, sexual self-acceptance, healthy sexual development, honoring and accepting that beautiful part of being a human, then let's say it's just never talked about sexuality. So you experience the wounding, sexuality is never talked about. Your sexuality is still going to happen. That's going to be inside of you. The fantasies will come up. The things will happen inside of you. And if it's never talked about and you don't have any space to talk about it, the message is there that we don't talk about that. We hide. So on a macro level, we do that, and then it trickles down to the individual. The only way that you really know you're lovable is by taking a chance. You have to be vulnerable. You have to put yourself out there. If you manipulate and hide and try to get others to love you and accept you by manipulating them, that you'll never ever actually experience real love. And I've seen people do this for years and years and years. I want you, I want a relationship with you, but I don't want you to see me fully. So I want your support. I want your connection, but I'm not going to be vulnerable enough to actually connect, to actually allow you to connect to the real me, because my shame is too much. And when there's stories and beliefs, faulty core beliefs around sexuality, and just in general, that's what causes that. And so when I say that sexual self-acceptance is absolutely imperative for recovery from sexual addiction, when we talk about recovery, I talk all the time about, like, you just know when someone's in recovery. And I think one of the main things that you start to experience with them is that they are a vulnerable, honest, authentic human being. And a vulnerable, honest, authentic human being is one that can admit that they have sexuality, that they have their own unique arousal template. Now, accepting your sexuality doesn't mean that you're going to go act on all the things that are inside of you. And this is one thing that just drives me insane, is there's this fear-mongering belief that says, well, I need to spend my life rejecting myself in order to stay safe. That's bullshit. And it drives me nuts, because what it says is like, no. Stay with the old. Like, if you're experiencing shame, then you need to use some shame to continue to keep yourself safe. The shame is causing the problems. The shame is causing the deviant acting out. So let's remove the shame, replace that with self-acceptance, and then have the agency to choose what we actually want to step into in our lives or not. And the fear-mongering belief is, well, if you just go to self-acceptance, then you'll just go off the rails. And that, to me, is somebody who doesn't understand healthy sexuality. Because I have a thought or a trigger, or I'm aroused by something, doesn't mean I have to go run over and immediately start humping it. And I know I say that bluntly, but it drives me crazy, because you can just stop and say, oh, interesting. What does that say about me? I was aroused by that, or I triggered by that, or I noticed that. Now, do I want to pursue that? Do I not want to pursue that? Well, it entices me, but I definitely don't want the consequences of going down that road. So I accept that I definitely have those triggers and have that arousal. That's a beautiful part of who I am, and I'm going to choose not to go act upon it. That's healthy. But just applying rejection and shame in order to not go do that thing, you're more likely to go do that thing. You're just going to hang out in the dark for a while, hide, beat yourself up, experience the shame, and then eventually control and release. But boom, you're going to go act out. And this is where I get really tired of religiosity and things coming in and saying, just control yourself. Let's start with accept yourself. Let's start with love yourself. You know what? In order to control yourself, you got to know yourself. You have to know you in order to really choose to control. The radical acceptance of self leads to honesty. It leads to being empowered. It leads to agency, which then, when you're honest and you're empowered, you're living in the light, it leads to being a trustworthy person, which ultimately leads to being able to create intimacy in your life, which ultimately leads to being able to feel connected to God, self, and others. And ultimately, that's what addiction is somebody is searching for that connection, but they're trying to get it in a non-vulnerable way. They're trying to get it not by stepping into the light and being seen. Like I said earlier, the only way we know we're lovable is by taking the chance. It drives me crazy when people go to therapy programs and they are taught how to further reject themselves in order to be in recovery. Let's teach you how to hide even more, live in the dark, pretend, comply, go through the motions, fake it in order to show you that I'm in recovery. That's not recovery. That compliance will never be recovery, because what you're doing is you've already learned how to like keep it in a box and pretend like it's in a box. Then you go to a recovery program. They're like, well, let's give you this other box that you can try to really put it in and pretend like that's what you are. Doesn't work. The only thing that works is letting go, opening up, being honest, loving yourself, accepting yourself. Your arousal template and who you are as a sexual being is beautiful. And it's the way that it is for a reason. And you can have that arousal template and you can still live in the world that we live in and not become a criminal. You can have that arousal template and you can still live in the world that we live in and not be addicted to sex. Accepting who you are as a sexual being provides some relief. And what you realize is I can be me fully, 100% me, and I'm still lovable. I can have this fetish, I can have this fantasy, I can have this feeling, and I can own it. And I can see it, and I can acknowledge it. And I still am lovable. That is so powerful because it undoes all of the early shame and all of the early stories that you experienced when you thought nobody will love me as I am. I must hide in order to be loved. I'm passionate about this because I've just, well, you guys know why. I've been in this arena for so long. And this can be really uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable for partners. Like, hey, the pathway to healing and creating trust in your marriage is by owning your sexuality and being honest about who you are. Oh, yikes. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean he's going to go out and have sex with, all kinds of people? Yeah, it's scary. You got to take that risk, though. If you want real recovery, the risk is to accept yourself, love yourself, first and foremost. And as and for the partner, I would hope that you can take a step back and say, you know what? I want real recovery. Whatever it is, I want to know. I want to accept and see who you are. I don't want to live in a space of, pretending like something's not there when it is. I want to know. I want to see the real you. And then I can decide whether I'll be with the real you or not. But I want to know. So rather than you pretending in order for me to stay around, let's just do this. In order for me to love you, you've got to take that chance. All right, you guys, thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful. I hope this makes sense. And I hope I can be a voice of a different voice, a voice that is all about freedom. It's all about authenticity. It's all about being able to be you and finding that peace and that love and that confidence and that femininity and masculinity inside of you that's so beautiful. God created a miracle when God created you. And it doesn't matter the wounds that you've had or the things that you've experienced that have told you that you must hide, that you're not lovable as you are. Those are lies. Because you are loved. You are beautiful and you are okay as you are. See you guys.